Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats podcast, the podcast that guides you not to only host retreats that thrive financially, but also transform people's lives. I'm your host, Leni Cavazos, and each week I bring you the best strategies and personal insights to help you create retreat experiences that transform lives, both your clients and your own. In our journey together, we'll dive into the secrets behind successful retreats, from crafting a unique atmosphere to mastering the logistics that ensure profitability. Whether you're tuning in for inspiring interviews with leading retreat experts or seeking actionable advice in our solo episodes, this podcast is your go-to resource for turning your retreat visions into reality. Don't miss out on any of our episodes and subscribe now. For more tools and a free guide on creating your own six-figure retreat business, visit theretreatplanner.com. Now let's get started and make your retreat dreams come true.
Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome to our new episode with Erin Damm. I'm so excited because today we're going to be talking about some very, very juicy information about how to regulate, and then we're also going to be talking about biohacking. That if you are all aware of this, it's something that's super trendy, it's great, it's very, very powerful, and then we're going to learn how can we bring this. Just small disclosure, if you're watching this on video, I'm in Tepoztlan in this beautiful retreat center, but I do have a dog, so he might just pop in to say hello at once, or he might not. So just if you see dogs around, don't be scared. It's part of the scenery, right? And it's also windy today, so it's absolutely amazing. So I'm going to introduce you to our guest speaker today. So today we have Erin Damm, MPH, ERYT, 500 PRYT, YASEP, ACSM, EPC. So if you're familiar with these terms, you know what it is, but she will tell us a little bit more about it. But the reality is that she studies a lot and she's very, very trained in all her things, right? So there's a bunch of yoga there. So, but Erin, more than that, she's a passionate explorer and student of life and all that is world and people. See, you can hear the barking. So that's Coco, my dog, barking to the other dog. So anyway, let me get back into this. She is a passionate explorer and student of life and all that this world and people in it have to offer. She loves to travel and explore new places, organize and lead yoga and adventure retreats, and run the show at the MSW Vitamin Lounge in Austin, Texas. And this is where the whole biohacking comes into place. So hear this, right? And then she continually learns and experiences to create offers that balance all aspects of wellness. So Erin, thank you so much for being here today and spending this beautiful, beautiful sunny day with me and talking about how to self-regulate.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's not as sunny in Austin. I'm actually inside our podcast studio, but I can see our office in Westlake, which is right next to Austin, is basically in a tree house. So I'm also looking at lots of trees, but I'm inside. How Do You Health is our podcast. It's our event production team, our marketing team. I actually helped plan our How Do You Health Fest the last 3 years. We're taking a pause this year. A lot of us have some personal things going on, and I'm getting to focus a little more on my retreat business. But so I started in the health realm of things in college. Well, I mean, I was always interested. I was an athlete, all that fun stuff in college when I was pre-med. And then I decided to go to public health school for behavioral science and health education. So that's where kind of all of it went. I'm also at work. So if I'm waving, it's like, I'm like, go over there. That's where the clinic is. So we actually do IVs and shots. So I ended up working with these guys after many, many years. I would think I was out of college for, I don't know, it's been 3 years. I was out of college for almost a decade before I started working with these wonderful men, Jonathan Mendoza, Nurse Doza. He's on TikTok and all the things. Super fun to watch him. I occasionally get to hop on there with him. And then Baldemar Garza. So I joined them about 4 years in. I had met them through a nonprofit, children's health education nonprofit. So I've lived a lot of lifetimes.
For those who don't know them, tell us a little bit about who they are and, like a little bit of just so we know, like at least what's their purpose in life, right? Why do they show up
Yes.
on TikTok every day?
Yeah, so Jonathan is a nurse practitioner, chiropractor. He was working in pain management and ended up moving over into the biohacking wellness space about 6, 7 years ago. I joined them 3 years ago. I had met them 5 years ago. So many like random years. But I was working for that health education nonprofit, and he was on my board. So they show up because they really do believe in helping the whole body and helping you connect with your inner self, like listening to your inner voice and helping yourself with supplementation, IVs, shots, and just talking it out. Because sometimes we just need someone to listen and help us through the next thing. But yeah, so I work with them and we do supplements and all of that. But how I really bring that into my retreat training business is I take the supplementation to keep my gut, my body healthy when I'm training or when I'm doing the retreats. And I also take a lot of their advice and a lot of their like, maybe you need to sit down and breathe and all of that. So it's kind of just all my worlds collide into one space. They also fully support what I do, which is really amazing and awesome. Our whole team, I was gone almost a month. In fact, Leni and I met at 3 a.m. Sydney time. Might have been 3:30. I don't know. I can't remember.
Late.
That was a crazy day. I traveled that day. So I like started my day with meeting Leni and talking about all of the amazing things we could talk about on this podcast. And then went for like a walk and then eventually flew to Uluru because I was traveling on my own. And the big thing with biohacking and traveling is that you're jumping time zones, you're jumping food styles, weather. I mean, when I left Austin, we had an ice storm 3 days before I left. So I left and it was 40 degrees, and I arrived in Thailand and it was, I think, 85 degrees, if I remember right. We went to the beach first. We went to the PB Islands. But yeah, so I take all of that together and it just kind of, like, a good way to put it is it collides, and I get to take what I learn from the people I work with and also from the people that come around and use our services and have biohacking equipment and things like that. Because the biggest things you can biohack is getting into sunlight, sleeping, and having a community. And then good food and all of that comes in. But if you don't have the first three, the rest of it isn't going to do what you need to do. Take a walk every day. That was one of the things I did a lot in Australia and Thailand. I walked so much, girl. It was crazy.
I know when we're traveling, you walk so much more than your regular days, right? And I do need to bring my walks into my practice. When I used to live in Dubai, I would walk every day to works 20 minutes and then 20 minutes back.
Yeah.
And I just used it as a meditative practice where I would just like make an intention that by the time I reached home, I would not be thinking of work anymore. That if I had anything left over, those 20 minutes were the minutes, right? And then everything else became my personal life and it was not surrounded by work. And it just gave me so much more mental health.
Yeah, I love that. I don't, I live pretty close to work, so I have to like actively be like, you're going on a walk today. The days that I work from home, because I do a lot of I'm the operations officer is my technical title, but I help with a lot of things. The days that I have off, I'm at home working on financials and things. I'll do an hour of work, go walk for 10 minutes, come back. But not everyone has a super active job. When I used to bartend and serve, I never wore activity monitors. That's one thing that a lot of biohackers use. They'll wear a Whoop or a BioStrap or Aura rings. I'm not big on wearing things on me. I've currently got a bracelet that I got when I was in Dosikat, which is near Chiang Mai. And they're like, wear it for a week. It'll probably fall off. It's been on for a month and a half now. And I'm like, I don't want to take it off. He put so many good intentions into it. But people will wear those and it tracks a lot of different metrics to tell you, are you getting enough sleep? Is your heart rate recovering? I also know the equations for that. So like when I take mine, I'm able to do that. Yay, medical nerd. But that's one of my favorite things is to find out how my body is reacting to things. But it's really important those tools are great. But if you can't just realize, oh, maybe I need to drink some more water, or maybe I should go for a walk, those are your stepping stones into it and then move forward. Those are your free biohacks.
Yeah. So
And then you can start
let's
moving
say
in.
this
Yeah,
back again to
sorry.
the audience. No, no, don't worry. It's like this is like it's amazing. I love everything that you're saying. Let's say again those three ones that they're all free, right? The three ones
Yep.
that they can do to biohack their lives without thinking about all, so many people I think of biohacking about all this, like tons of
Yeah.
supplements I'm gonna need to take, and I'm gonna need to go to this fancy clinic to do biohack my life. But now you just told me there's three things that are like free, and they're like the key things that you need to do to biohack your life. So I'm like shocked. So let's go back into those three, and so everyone remembers them.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of ways to look at it, but those are the three that I really feel are the most important. Everything else kind of falls in line after. Sleep. If you're not sleeping, you're not going to do your exercise. You're not going to eat right because your hormones and your stress levels and all of that will be just confused. Because ultimately it comes down to those things, which I'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. Sleep, going out and getting sunlight every day. And now I'm trying to remember what I said the third one was. It was community. So having a support system. So we find that in blue zones, in communities where people live a very long life. I have 90-year-old grandparents. Actually, my grandma will be 90 in July, but she's going to live way past that. So it's community, it's family, it's support, it's knowing that when things go haywire, you have someone you can interact with. Austin is amazing in that way that we've got all these community builders. I have so many friends who do community groups. We have a community that comes into our clinic. We do lunch and learns where people come in and they just interact, and the connections that are made through that are just amazing. In my retreats and things like that, I build community, and those people are connected for a lifetime. And that's one of my favorite things about teaching retreats. It's not the yoga. It is totally the new places I get to discover with the people that come. I'll totally agree to that. But it's that community of these people are connected years later, and they're planning group trips together, and they're doing things like that. And almost every one of my retreats that's happened with, like, somebody met someone that it was their person, because every retreat is an opportunity to create some more community and to make lifelong friendships. And we do it so fast. So yeah, they are sleep, sunlight, because that balances your circadian rhythms, and community. So 2 S's and a C. There are many other things. Your diet obviously matters. Walking matters. Sex life matters. And there are coaches that'll tell you all of these things, and they're amazing. And I'm connected to plenty of them. So please feel free to reach out and I can connect you if you're looking for any of those. But for me, it's those three are the top three. When those are not in order for me, I can't do any of the other stuff. In fact, when I was overseas, I really only took one supplement. And hilariously, it's now like the one that we have the most people getting in the clinic, because Nurse Doza on his TikTok, which is just Nurse Doza, talked about it a lot. It's Liver Love, which balances your liver health, detoxes all the crap out of you, and then your hormones are able to balance themselves a little more. I'm absolutely certain taking that the entire trip is why I didn't get sick, because every other time I've gone overseas or gone to a new climate, I get a stomach bug or I get the stomach problems, and that supplement kept me from that. So waving at people as they leave. So yeah, supplements are great, and they're only great if you take them. So like for me, convincing myself to take, I can take 20 pills a day. I can swallow 10 of them at a time. I am that person. But I don't want to. I don't want to get up every morning and have to like throw a handful of supplements in my mouth. But for some people, they like that and they're cool with that. So it's definitely find the one that works for you in that regard. But you're not going to take your supplements if you don't have a regular sleep schedule, if you don't feel good in yourself because of your community, if you aren't if you sleep, sunlight is a big one, because you want to get out there early, get that vitamin D. You can naturally get vitamin D because everybody wants the D, right? It's like the best thing in the world. It's a mood booster. All of these things increase dopamine and serotonin. And as a society right now, we have a negative amount of that just because of, especially in the US, not to go on a tangent, our food just doesn't have what it used to. I realized that when I was overseas, and I'm like, I feel good right now and I'm not doing any of the crazy stuff. except for lots of walks. I was probably walking like a 10K a day at least. And I can
Yeah,
tell you that I don't do that in Austin.
I completely hear you. Like the same thing happened for me when I was like in Middle East, right? Like you're in the desert and I lived there for 7 years. Like honestly, when I moved back to Mexico, it was such a game changer. Just eating the same stuff. Huh? I lost like
Mhm.
maybe like 8-10 pounds naturally, just because over there they had to put all these things for the food to actually travel, because there was not so much of local fruits.
Mhm.
Everything was imported, right? So
Ah,
then you would put a plum inside your fridge. I can tell you, I had a plum inside my fridge because I was doing a test. It lasted 6 months. Perfect
that shouldn't
conditions.
last 6 months.
No.
That's frightening. Well, I came back and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to throw a bunch of stuff away because I had told my roommate, just eat it. It's in there. I screwed up. I ordered way more than I needed to. And I get back and everything still looks edible. And I'm like, I'm gonna throw some of this away. I don't know that I
Mm.
should be eating that. Um, but yeah, and that brings to another really good biohack. Eat local. Um, buy from local farmers, buy from your farmers markets, things like that. I mean, when I was in Thailand, Natalie, who was the person who is running the retreat center, the Taladaya retreat center that we were at, she took us to the actual market in Josephat. And it was so cool. I'm like, you mean I can literally it's an open air market, and these people are like coming in from like maybe the mountains an hour away, but like it's so local and it's got the bacteria of the local space and all of that. It's just so cool that that is available over there. And I'm happy that communities in the States are starting to go that way, because when I was younger, there were no farmer markets where I was from. I'm from the Midwest, so Illinois. It wasn't really a thing 25 years ago.
Right.
And I love that it's going that way. Community gardens, things like that. Another way to build community. So your community gardens. But it's just so
Awesome.
cool. Yeah. So eating
I
local
love
while you're on
this.
retreats is so much
Yay.
fun. I ate so much fruit in Thailand. I was so sad when I came back to the States. I'm like, you mean I don't get dragon fruit and papaya and what was the other one that I really liked? The sour one, passion fruit every morning with breakfast.
Mm.
I'm so sad.
I
But it's an
know.
experience.
That's
And that's
absolutely
the
amazing.
Yeah. And the fun part about retreats is you do get to try those new experiences. Like my friend that went with me, she's like, I'd never eat this in the States. Like, I'd never even think it was a viable option. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you got to try all the stuff when you're traveling. I
Of
ate
course.
kangaroo in Australia. I was like, what? Tasted like sweet sirloin. Maybe not the only person that'll say that. Sorry if you're vegetarian or vegan. I like meat. Um, but yeah, I tried everything. I didn't find any emu, but everyone says that's just really gamey chicken. So I was kind of okay with that. Could not bring myself to eat the bugs though. Like, so when we were at the market in Thailand, they had the like actual crickets just kind of flying around. Like they had the little thing, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. That's a little much. But it's such a sustainable source of protein. So I get why
Yeah.
everyone does it. So
Yeah,
my
I agree.
yeah, I was like, I've like had the ones that are put into bars and stuff, but I don't want something that I can see flying around. Like, nah, I'm
Of
good.
course.
But I love that people eat that and they use their local stuff as well. So
Yes, eating local is so important, right? It just all
mhm.
like it it benefits the world in so many different ways, right? And then we're going a little bit out of the biohacking, but
Oh
actually it is
yeah,
kind of like
bring me back.
slightly, it's a little bit slightly connected in the way that if you are buying local products and you're not creating such a huge carbon footprint, then you're eating healthier food. So then it helps you biohack, right? So it's all connected at the end
Mhm.
of the day. But
It
like
is.
thinking about like self-regulating, I completely agree. I'm an avid traveler. I really, really enjoy it and I love it. And I am very, very lucky because I am Mexican. So I do have a stomach that is quite strong. Like it's very, very rare for me to get sick when I
Yeah.
travel. But I have other friends and other people who every single time they travel, they don't want to eat anything that is not like, processed or packaged or this because they are scared. So how with biohacking could you help this process? Because I'm even thinking in the space of like retreats, right? So what about
Mhm.
making your retreat a biohacking retreat? So you bring the things for everyone who's attending your retreat, right? So no one gets sick. Forget about just you as a retreat leader. That's of course amazing and very, very important, because how can you serve, right, if you're sick, right? It doesn't make sense at all.
No, it doesn't work.
How do you bring biohacking into a retreat? Like, what would you suggest, for example, like as a retreat leader to like bring, right? We were talking about this, like coconut oil or mushrooms, or, you know, how can you implement biohacking into your retreat as part of the experience? So everyone is like, you know, 100%, and you implement like getting sunlight early in the morning and making sure that there's a walk every single day, right? So how do you bring this?
Now, that's a really good question. I love that. And there are actually a lot of people who are actively doing that, and it's so wonderful. So with sunlight, it's most important to get up in the morning and get that first like half hour as the sun is rising on your skin, in your eyes. That regulates your circadian rhythms. With food, for me and for people that I have traveled with, like I said, I'm absolutely certain that the liver love supplement helped me this time. But in the past, I've used charcoal. I've used oregano pills. Those are really good. Nitric oxide is really good for the oxidative stress that our bodies experience. I took NO2 Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Brian's company, or Brian Pharmaceuticals is the name of his, and they're amazing. And that probably helped me with the jet lag and all of that. Because if you're traveling, I mean, I had 12-hour or more flights on that trip, and it hit me hard when I came back. But on the way over, I didn't have as many issues. But I was doing my little supplementations. The big thing is drink a lot of water. I don't eat a lot when I'm on planes because it tends to screw up my digestion. I don't know if that's a me thing or a lot of people thing. But trying to get to the point where you're on the eating schedule for wherever you're at. So if that means not eating for 8 hours because it would be your overnight while you're on your plane, that's a good way to do it as well. I always plan the yoga in the morning or at night. So it's either going to be an active morning session or a restorative evening session. And then also very much getting those walks in, doing movement. One of my favorite ways to like connect with people is to walk and talk. I have girlfriends here and guy friends in Austin that's how we hang out. Like we plan walks, we go for walks around the lake it's a lake. I'm like, what is it? Town Lake, Lady Bird Lake. There's arguments in Austin about that, but it's a lake. And we'll go for walks and just catch up on life, just feeling heard. And I think that's a good way to include it. Like pair people up and have them just go on walks around the center. Because a lot of times these centers are very large. They're in nature areas. Nature's huge. Right. Get out there, put your feet in the ground, dance around, do what you need. I definitely am barefoot as much as I can when I'm in foreign countries because I'm like, I want this ground in my feet. But yeah, so it's kind of just the same thing. And sleep when you can. I know some retreats go super late. I tend to try to end everything in my retreats by like 7:30, 8 p.m. so that people are able to go to bed by like 9, 10-ish. Most of the places I've done retreats have been pretty close to the equator. So it gets dark and the sun comes up around 6:30 a.m. or p.m. Which is really interesting. Like when I was in Costa Rica doing my teacher training, I remember that my body got to the point where it woke up at 6, it wanted to go to bed by 8. And that is not the case in Austin in my daily life. I was a bartender for years. So I have days where I'm like, why am I up at 1 a.m.? But then I'm like, oh, that's what your body did for 15 years. So it's getting your body used to where you're at, but also trying to get on that rhythm of the sun. And I do fully believe that there are people that their bodies are going to be on a different rhythm, which is really cool. Like you've got your overnighters, you've got your night owls, as everyone calls them, or your second shifters. I'm actually happiest from like 10 to 10, and then I start to get tired, but I don't want to get up and move before 8 a.m. I just don't, unless I'm in one of those places where I can get that circadian rhythm, that sleep rhythm going. So
that's absolutely amazing. I love this. It's so interesting, right? To have these opportunities that are so like in the can grab them and just use them. And I completely agree when you're talking about the different cycles and how people have different rhythms, because it's completely true, right? You have people who are like these early birds at 5 a.m. They're like up, dark or sun.
Most
it doesn't
of my
really
friends.
matter, right? Not me. I'm more of like middle shift kind of person, right?
Yeah,
I wake up with my body like 7:30 in the morning, then or 8, and then I start doing my thing. And then I want to go to bed by 10, 11 p.m. And there is people who want to wake up at 1 p.m. and that's completely fine. And this is their inner rhythm, right? So it's all about listening what our body needs, right? And I think we were talking about this before we started this call. And it's so interesting, like how sometimes just by going back into the breath, right?
Yeah.
It just brings us back into who we are and what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And I remember as a kid, I mean, I think they called it conflict mediation, but the core of that was, and this was in like elementary school or middle school, the core of that was take 10 deep breaths. That's all it was. And it's bringing you back into the moment. Sit on the ground, put your feet on the earth, your hands on the earth, whatever you need. And I've been brought back into that by numerous friends. In fact, I have a really good guy friend who, when I was doing the event back in December, amazing human, was in the right place at the right time for this, but literally had me throw a tantrum and then made me sit down and breathe, because our nervous systems can get so riled up. And a lot of people that come into retreats, they're very high achievers. They're people that are on the go all the time. So getting them, and that's the benefit of a retreat, a biohacking or any kind of one, is getting out of your comfort zone, but also getting your body to regulate itself again. And like you were saying, with the individuality, like we're also different. Our diets can be different. I know people that I can eat bread and meat till the cows come home. I'm definitely Eastern European. My German body is like, yes. But I can also eat corn because I have native in my body. But it's like, you have to listen to that, because there's certain things. I eat onions, I get sick. But most people would just continue to eat them because they're the easy thing to get a hold of. Ooh, sorry. I don't know who that is. My phone being silly. I have it on do not disturb, which means someone just pushed through that. Don't do that to people. That's not nice. And it's bio-individuality. So for some people, diets are different. What physical activity is different. Like I know people that can walk and never have weight on them. And I know some people that have to do a lot more. Weightlifting is great. But yeah, with retreats, it's coming in and helping people get back into their bodies. Because as a society, we're so out of our body. We're so, what's the next thing? Social media, all of that. I have to like turn my social media off on weekends because I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. But it's such a beautiful connection tool. And we saw that in the last 3 years, but it can also be negative. So it's finding what works for you. And I think that's really a cool way to look at biohacking and retreats. There are cool items you can use. There are amazing items. There's red light therapies. There's brain tap, which is it's sound and also light therapy. So it activates the pineal gland. You can bring supplementation into it, ionized water. There are vibrating beds that are pretty awesome. Opus and Shift Wave, and just throwing out, for people, if they're interested in incorporating these tools, I can connect you. These people are all amazing. CBD companies, mushroom companies, all of that. So it's just kind of finding where that fits. For me, I just want people to get to be one with nature, to have new experiences, and to regulate their body a little better is kind of how I think it's bringing biohacking in is the best way to go. And, biohacking is one way to say it, quality of life, just wellness in general. Because when I was going through school, biohacking wasn't a thing. You were just doing wellness things, which is so interesting that everything evolves. And in the clinic, we do IVs and shots, which we're starting to see the IVs are slowing down a little more because they were so popular throughout the pandemic because it's fluids, more vitamins. Now we're seeing that shots and time with people to explore what is going on in your body or what is going on in your mind and come up with those recommendations, whether they're do IVs and shots or do supplements or talk to me more often because we can come up with a plan is really the way it's going. I think the next move is the community and sun. Everyone's loving the sun again, which I love, and outside.
Yay. Oh my
So,
gosh. This conversation has been absolutely amazing. And I know
yeah.
you have so much to share. So for anyone who's listening to this, go and check out what biohacking is all about, right? And how do you self-regulate so you can host your retreats from a better space, like for yourself. And then how could you also implement this when you are creating your retreats? How do you bring this into something that becomes intentional? And it's not just something that happens on its own, right? So I have been so happy to have you here on this call, Erin. It's been absolutely amazing. And I would like to, for our audience to listen, how can they find you and anything that you want to share with them before we sign out?
Yeah. So loved being on, and our conversations are amazing. I could talk to you forever. Like, I just feel like we both are really passionate about retreats and health and all of that. And I love seeing what you've done and all of your workshops and things, your conferences you're putting together. So I'm on Instagram at Wanderin, which is WANDERIN. So Erin Damm, which is my last name. So DAMM. She's going to put this in the show notes,
Yes.
but it's Erin Damm, which is funny that my name actually worked in Wanderin. I wanted to change it to that, but it was not available. Sad. And then my retreat website is www.lightthesparkwithin.com. And you can find the clinic if you're in Austin. Please come see us. We're in Westlake, about 15 minutes from downtown Austin, at mswlounge.com. You can also book things with John online. Please feel free to reach out. I'm definitely always willing to slide into my DMs talking about all the nerdy things, nerdy and fun and all of that. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from people and reaching out and seeing what everybody wants to know more about. Awesome.
Thank
I've
you
enjoyed
so
this.
much.
This is fun.
Yay.
And we both
Thank
have green things behind us.
Yes.
I love it, but yours is more
Perfect.
natural. Mine's a wall. You guys will see this wall on a lot of different podcasts because people record in our studio, which is so cool.
Yay.
So
I do love the background. Erin, once again, thank you so much for joining us. I really hope this sparkles the thought for everyone who's listening on how they can bring biohacking into their retreats. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you in our next episode.
Bye, guys.
Wow, what a great episode. If you like our podcast, How to Run Profitable Retreats, leave us a review and share it with a friend.